Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Amy Neiman, VP of Client Services here at Data.World, and I'm so glad to be joined by our three clients today as we discuss best practices and strategies that have helped them plan, build, launch, and grow data programs that benefit their organizations. I'm, like I said, super eager about this, so let's go ahead and get started with a quick round of introductions. Brett, why don't you kick us off?
Amy, thank you for inviting me to join. I'm Brett Harper, Chief Data Officer for Wunderman Thompson Data North America.
Fantastic. Thank you. Brett, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick Vanderbilt. I'm the Director of Business Intelligence at Prologis, and I'm located in Denver.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining. And Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Lidby. I'm the Analytics Program Manager for CareOregon. We're a healthcare company in Portland, Oregon.
Wonderful. Well, I know that we've been working some time together, and I'm just so glad that you could join us today. You all have achieved success in shaping your business's data programs. And I would like to go ahead and just kick off with, I think one of the questions that we find really interesting is, what do companies often get wrong as they're building data-driven cultures? Brett, actually, why don't you go ahead and kick that one off for us?
Great. Over time, through my experiences, I've kind of recognized, three kind of themes that people struggle with. One is business paradigms that inhibit adoption. What I mean here is that, sometimes for older or traditional companies, the most prevalent roadblocks appear not to be technical, but rather cultural or organizational or process oriented. It takes a lot of sustained, purposeful effort to shift the paradigm away from this is the way we've always done it to a more data-driven culture. It's kind of a classic organizational development problem, shifting the culture to one where decisions are based on data and analytics rather than on experience and intuition. So really the senior leadership team must not only support the effort in words, but also in deeds, meaning actual investment in data governance, functions, teams, the right tools like data catalog, education awareness programs, those kinds of things. The second thing is business silos. Organizations are awfully departmentalized, and they're geared for specialization and focus, which is a necessity. But there are a couple of downsides that happen with those departmental silos. The first is that the teams, they may be siloed or isolated rather than working together towards common goals. And then the systems and the data that they use may also be siloed. So, this could result in a duplication of resources or conflicting data, or even difficulty connecting data into a single view for decision-making purposes. In this case, the remedy to resolving the data silo issue is either to break down the departmental walls, which certainly is not easy, or to create and implement an overarching data strategy managed by a neutral organization. And then the third theme is just the concept of overpromising and under-delivering. I think if we've been in corporate America more than 10 minutes, we've all probably seen these grandiose, all-encompassing plans launched with a lot of fanfare, and then they fizzle out when the going gets tough. So I think on these data-driven initiatives, it's really key to set clear, measurable, and specific goals, and then start small. Right? Don't try to boil the ocean right off the bat. Strive for quick wins and build up ambitions over time.
I hear those. I agree. I hear those often from clients. Those are very universal kind of challenges that when they're working on those data-driven cultures, clients encounter. I think, Patrick, you had some critical components or assets or facets that really help make a data program a success. What are some of those that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I like to approach this from the perspective of our three leading principles. So those three are building a foundation with a long-term focus. Secondly, use the hub and spoke model to determine a good balance between centralized and decentralized analytics. And then thirdly, focus your initiatives on parts of the organization that have a self-driven interest in doing analytics. So what I mean with building a foundation is what we do is modeling our core concepts that drive our business first. So most core concepts don't change often. So when you model them right, they don't require much maintenance and they can be reused. And these are also the data points that provide the most value to most people in our organization. So that foundation is then the hub in our hub and spoke model. By centralizing the data modeling of our concepts, we significantly reduce the complexity that our analysts have to deal with. And this enables them to immediately start using that data and augment it with their own Excel files. So they will get immediate value there. And then thirdly, like Brett said as well, start small. We do that by focusing the initiatives on those parts of the company that have a self-driven interest in doing analytics and learning about data. We feel that the Big Bang approach of rolling out analytics to everyone is often prone to failure and poor engagement. So when you start with parts of the business that have a big interest and in learning from data, and also have the ability to commit, you see the most success.
Definitely agree. Looking for those groups that have a high appetite and interest in really joining can really create that grassroots interest there. Christy, similarly, what kind of critical components do you think really make a program successful?
Yeah, for us, there are definitely many components that are important, but the executive buy-in support is so critical. We need them to invest people's time, the financial resources to purchase the platforms that we need. Also reorganizing our company for how analysts, much like Brett and Patrick mentioned, we have changed from a decentralized model to a federated model. Those executives are also leading by example. They're showing up in those meetings, they're pulling up dashboards, they're looking at their KPIs, which really enables that adoption to others. You see your leaders doing it, other people are going to be adopting that behavior.
That modeling of behavior is a big one. I think that it gets, you can talk about it, but when people actually see it, that's where it gets exciting. Most definitely. Well, then if you think about it, we're kind of building on that. I wanted to ask about strategies that you generate for adoption and usage and ongoing usage, especially once you've had that initial excitement of a rollout of a program or a new resource. How do you keep that going? Because it is a program that you have to nurture. Christy, maybe a little bit on how you're approaching that.
Yeah, during the implementation, we're identifying metrics that we want to be monitoring, and we're looking at those right after we roll out and ongoing, months, years after. We're looking at users, which departments they are in, what are they visiting, how often are they coming back. If someone's only coming once or twice, we know that there's a barrier for adoption. It could be a matter of people not knowing how it fits in your workflow, and then we would meet with leadership, identify those barriers, and help them really build it into their workflows so that it's just part of people's daily work. So metrics are really important, and we just have constant collaboration with our different departments, breaking down those silos so we can keep the lines of communication open.
I like that data using data, seeing the metrics to see how you drive that. Patrick, what about you?
We believe in the intrinsic motivation of our data community, and we consider it our duty to enable them. So we feel that our colleagues want to answer questions and they want to identify new trends. And so it is our task to provide them with the means to be able to find those answers. And that means that we need to provide them with the right tools and the right paths for each skill level and each experience level. So for our analysts, we have a different suite of tools. We have canned reports for the beginner or not so tech savvy people. We have Tableau models that people can use to build their own reports. And we have the curated data lake for the analysts that want to go even deeper. The key there is that all these people can actually find the information that they are looking for. So that's why we add metadata to all these things that we produce. And that metadata is then searchable in a tool like data.world so that people can actually find what they're looking for. Secondly, like I mentioned earlier, we focus our efforts on the parts of the organization that have a desire to succeed. And what we also see is that if you celebrate those groups that actually do succeed in their initial efforts, and you communicate about that to the rest of the organization, that sparks a natural interest in the rest of the organization to also start doing analytics. We see that when one group succeeds, that we get way more requests to also start doing analytics. And then on top of that, I think it is also very important to keep in touch with those groups that we roll analytics out to. Those groups provide us great feedback of the things that go right, but also of the things that go wrong. And that feedback we then use to improve our documentation in the Untitled world to make it even easier for other people to find the things that they are looking for.
I love that you thought about the different personas and roles within your organization, and then how are they going to discover the context that goes along, the metadata that goes along with the data they're searching for. So that's exciting. Brett, what about you?
I approach this question a little bit differently, more from the products as seen from our client's perspective, the data products. So Wunderman Thompson Data has built, and we provide a suite of identity services to our customers: identity resolution, insights, modeling, and activation. And there's some key realities that pertain to those products. First, the proof is in the pudding. Our customers are really generally very data savvy. They understand how to measure the impact of our products and services on their marketing efforts. And results matter. So when a particular data product works well for clients, the account teams recognize that and they incorporate it into the solutions recommended for their clients as well. When it doesn't meet expectations, we're also given pretty quick feedback directly, and then we use that or try to leverage that as an opportunity to improve on our products. And then the second kind of key reality is that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And what do I mean by that? Simply this: if you think of a data product as one ingredient that a customer may require to address a particular business need or opportunity, they often require assistance to get the most out of that investment. So we are very purposeful in wrapping our data products with services: strategy, analytics, insights, execution, or what we call activation, so that the customer maximizes their investment. And really, it's a win-win scenario. The customer recognizes a better ROI, and then we have the opportunity to continue growing that relationship with the customer.
I love that iterative approach of like trying, testing, learning, and then improving. That continues to really ensure that people are using data in a way that's really helpful for them and has the impact and value that we want them to have. I guess my next question, building on that, is what advice do you have for getting stakeholders aligned and really earning that buy-in and that support as you're building your data program? We've talked about this, it takes a village, it takes a lot of folks. And so I'd be really interested to kind of hear what advice you have for our listeners on how you build that buy-in. Maybe Patrick, can you start with that?
Yeah, so what Brett experiences with his external customers, we experience with our internal stakeholders. So like I mentioned earlier, our long-term plan is to build a foundation and to expand on that foundation. And this foundation is an investment. It takes a lot of time and effort to get this data model the way we want it to be. But the ROI of that investment is driven by the fact that the foundation can be reused and that it reinforces learning and growth. And it also enables self-service. So that means that more people in the organization can actually do the analytics themselves instead of having to reach out to the data team. And that frees my team up to even invest more in expanding that foundation. So as probably we all experience on a day-to-day basis, there's always new fire drills, new asks that need to be answered immediately. And we consider it to be our duty to balance of maintaining the balance between investing enough in our foundation and answering those immediate questions. So what we feel is like, if you invest enough in that foundation, you will be able to answer those questions much quicker anyways, and support the business much better as well. And we see that our stakeholders now also start to recognize that. They see that we can provide analytics really quickly. And so they see that investing in a data program actually delivers returns. They do see that it makes a difference for them.
Absolutely. It's that foundation that you need, that walking step to make sure that as those requests come in, you're able to handle them in an efficient and effective manner. Brett, I think you also had some ideas on this as well.
Obviously, stakeholder buy-in and commitment is really kind of the key to success of any initiative or project. And I like to approach it kind of as a project management 101 type of approach. When you're kicking off an initiative or a project, it's really important to be very clear about the benefits to the stakeholders. You have to identify kind of the relevant what's in it for them proposition in order to get that commitment. Sponsors need to understand the benefits and especially, the ROI. Participants need to know that their efforts, their contributions, their time are of value and important to the success. And of course, at the beginning, with any project, you have to be very clear on the purpose, roles, and expectations. A clear scope on the project, defined roles and expectations, reasonable but challenging deadlines, and identifying deliverables and outcomes. The idea is to make the participating stakeholders believe that they are part of an important and a successful venture. During the project, of course, the leader needs to remain engaged and available, providing additional guidance, reestablishing priorities, or even removing roadblocks. We come across that, well, that's not my day job, right? People have competing priorities. That really requires the leader to go back and renegotiate those people's time commitments with their managers. Another one is just people who might not be carrying their fair share or kind of a lack of accountability. Again, it's just important for that leader to kind of hold the whole team accountable for their individual parts. And that really kind of builds confidence. But perhaps the most important thing on the road is to communicate and celebrate the little wins as you go, the accomplishment of interim goals. It helps people recognize success along the path, and it kind of re-energizes the team as things get hard. And then finally, at the end of a project, any kind of a data initiative, you just need to make sure that the project and the team members are publicly recognized, especially within their departments and to the appropriate senior leadership, right? I even like to give team members the opportunity to present, project summaries and outcomes themselves. It just reinforces for everyone the value that's been brought to the company. And, other staff sees that recognition and they're more likely to want to sponsor or be a part of the next project. It's fun to have success, right? And it just builds more interest in future data project opportunities.
I love, it really resonates with me, that ability to celebrate those milestones and look at this as a project, realize that it's going to go on, and how can you really develop and give your participants an opportunity to celebrate those interim steps that we're taking. So that's awesome to hear. Christy, you also had a perspective on this as well.
Yeah, it's early on interviewing our stakeholders, finding out what are those challenges, barriers for them buying in and supporting the data program, and then acting on those. One thing that we hear is, how do I know what data and dashboards to trust? And also, what is the intent of them? If it's created for one department and someone else comes in and uses it for a different purpose, that's a problem. So what we're doing to mitigate that is using the data.world data catalog to build out the metadata, building certification so people know which dashboards have been through peer review and what level, which indicates a level of trust. And then also the purpose. What's the intent of those dashboards? And it's really an important feature, and that we're excited to have the data catalog part of our governance program.
What I really like about that is that in all three, you're really talking about communication. How can you over communicate on what you're trying to achieve here so that people can see the success and the wins as they go along? And that, like to all your points, builds that excitement. That's really, I think, encouraging to hear. One question here is, how can businesses encourage, you have lots of users and roles within your organization that want to use data. How do you help the less technical really come in and have real impact in a data project? How do you help bring their voice into that project? So with that, Christy, can you kick that one off?
Yeah, you bet. We've created a Voice of Customer Committee. It's a cross-functional forum that brings leaders from every department together. We use them to, what's their business objectives? Having a data catalog or the data platform is supported by IT, but it's for the business. We need to make sure we're meeting their needs. We use our stakeholders, and definitely a lot are less technical, to help with prioritization. We take what are their business objectives, mapping those to the data assets that they need, and then pushing out roadmaps. As they start to see the results and the value that they're contributing, they contribute more in the future.
I like that. That creates that snowball effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brett, what about you?
I've actually found that less technical stakeholders are sometimes actually easier to get on board with data projects than their more technically oriented peers. Here's why. First, it's exciting to learn something new. You know, when people are given an opportunity to contribute in new ways and they understand the business benefits to the customers, to the company, or to themselves, that can be a really strong motivator. Also, they tend to focus more on the business benefit rather than the technical challenges or the technical hurdles. You know, better data, it leads to improved analytics and business decisions, which leads to improved business results. You know, performance, market position, reputation, revenues, profits. They can get really jazzed by making a difference for the business rather than being intimidated by, you know, technical detail or scale. And then really it's getting the right incentives lined up. You know, I'm a strong believer in incentives. People do what they're incented to do, whether those are positive or negative. And those incentives can be, you know, just intrinsic, right? Like increased job satisfaction or improved self-confidence, camaraderie, part of being of a new team or cross-departmental team. Or of course, they can be extrinsic, like recognition or opportunities for advancement, or maybe even financial reward. So again, I think it's key to make sure that less technically individuals, you know, are properly incentivized to participate in these kind of projects.
Such great points. Absolutely. Patrick, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I can continue where Brad left it. I think we want to take people seriously and give them a voice. I think most people want to be heard and they want to contribute, but sometimes they have negative experience in projects, right? They feel like they're taken advantage of, or they feel not taken seriously. So in our holistic approach, we try to make our documentation of our data projects available and transparent to everybody. So that means that we now show where the data comes from, what we do with the data, and what it can be used for, right? So for the not so technical people in our organization, those people are usually part of the business processes. They might own some of the business rules. So our documentation is actually documenting those processes and those rules. So while those people then might not be able to read SQL statements, they still can read the documentation of those business rules and business processes that are the foundation for those SQL statements, for those data models. So by making that available to them and making them part of that, we encourage the non-technical people to actually also contribute and learn. We try to combine the functional world and the technical world there.
I really love that. I think it's having that context that people really need, that really then gives them a voice to be able to speak in a data project. And then that diversity of idea really strengthens what is possible within your organization, because you need that technical and the business to really come alongside. And that's where you can really accelerate business action within your organization. All
Yeah,
right, last.
like Brett mentioned, those people know the details, right? Those are the
They
people
do.
that are on the floor. They know the details about the processes. So you cannot derive any meaningful information from your data if you don't know how that data is actually generated. So that's why we really believe it's very important to make those people that generate the data part of that whole process.
I agree. Both sides hold great bits of information that brought together can really accelerate things. All right, last question for you all. What's a data win that you're really proud of? And what's next in your data community? And Christy, if you'll kick us off with that.
Yeah, you bet. About a year ago, we selected our visualization tools and rolled out a single platform for all of our reports and dashboards. We also, which help with transparency, removing old data, and some standardization. Next step is implementing the data catalog to really focus on the governance part and building out our first universal business glossary for our company.
I'm so excited for you all. Patrick, what's up for you all?
For us, one of the main focuses is to put the accountability and responsibility of our data on the right folks. So right now, we still see that the data team inherited a lot of the responsibility and accountability of the data models, and with that also of the data. But we don't own the business processes. We don't create the metrics ourselves, right? It is the business that does that. So one of our initiatives is to really put that responsibility and accountability on the right people so that they can control that.
I love that sharing of that responsibility for sure. Brett, for you?
For us, one of the really big wins that we've had recently is in partnering with Data.World to upgrade our identity resolution capabilities into a true graph database architecture rather than a historical relational database architecture. The challenges were pretty big. We have a lot of extremely large volume of data, over 10 billion observations or input records across thousands of source files. A lot of that data was siloed just based on our historical departmental silos. The organization didn't really have experience with graph database architectures, and we were given 6 months to complete the beta and recognize operational improvements. So, we really partnered with Data.World, and I just got to say that, you guys, we really brought a one team project together, agile-based approach. We really worked great together, super partners. I can go through a lot of the details here, but long story short, we got the beta out on time. We incorporated the improvements that we saw into our modeling services, and we've already recognized a 10% improvement in client model performance. So that's direct benefit to our customers, and it kind of sets us up for growth down the road. And equally important, we've actually built a lot of organizational momentum to continue expanding those capabilities of our identity graph and our data lake. So what's next? Really, that's a big question. We have a very ambitious agenda for the coming years. We've outlined some key things. One, of course, is just the continuing evolution of that graph and the data lake. But similar to what Christy has talked about a couple of times, it's building out the data governance framework, make sure we have the right people, processes, and technologies in place to effectively manage as we grow. And that framework includes consolidating the inventory and control of all of our data assets into a single data catalog, a single consistent source of truth regarding the definition, lineage, and usage of those assets. And then really we have a pretty big initiative that, we're a part of a big company, and we have a lot of sister companies, agencies within Wunderman Thompson and WPP. And we have a very ambitious initiative to enable them, to provide them access to and training on the use of those capabilities to help them win more of their business pitches. So that's really tied tightly back to what I talked about in terms of building out our own capabilities and really having a solid data governance framework and a really comprehensive and easily digestible data catalog.
A lot of work there, great teamwork going on. Brett, Christy, Patrick, we are now kind of down to our end of our time here. I want to say thank you so much for your time and sharing your experiences with us. I know I find it super helpful to discuss how organizations are going about encouraging good data habits, building these kind of data organizations. You all are on a great track, and it's been a joy working with you. I appreciate your partnership. And thank you again for your time today.